Raindrops hit the windshield as David pulled into his driveway. Another long day at the repair shop was finally over. His back ached from bending over car engines for 10 hours straight, and his wallet felt even emptier than usual. The shop owner had cut everyone's hours again this week. Being an engineer meant nothing when there were no engineering jobs to be found. David sat in his old car for a moment, watching the rain get heavier. His small house looked tired in the gray evening light. The paint was peeling and the front steps needed fixing, but it was home and at least the rent was cheap. He grabbed his toolbox from the passenger seat and made a run for the front door. Inside, the house felt cold and quiet. David kicked off his work boots and looked around the empty living room. No messages on his phone. No mail except bills. Just another evening alone with a frozen dinner and whatever was on TV. He was only 28. But sometimes he felt like an old man who had given up on his dreams. His stomach growled, reminding him he had skipped lunch again to save money. David opened the refrigerator and stared at the few items inside. A half-empty carton of milk, some leftover pizza from 3 days ago, and a bag of apples that were starting to go soft. He really needed to go grocery shopping, but that would have to wait until payday. The rain was coming down harder now, drumming against the windows. David remembered he had left his good wrench set in the garage earlier that week. He would need those tools for a side job tomorrow, fixing his neighbor's lawnmower for $20. Every little bit helped these days. He put on his rain jacket and stepped back outside. The garage was separate from the house, about 30 feet away across the small backyard. His grandfather had built it back in the 1960s, and it showed its age. The roof leaked in 2 spots and the wooden door stuck when it rained. But it was big enough for his tools and gave him a place to work on small projects. David jogged across the wet grass, fumbling for his keys in the dark. The streetlight at the corner had been broken for months, and the city never seemed to get around to fixing anything in this neighborhood. He found the right key and struggled with the garage door lock. It always gave him trouble when the weather was damp. Finally, the door creaked open. David reached for the light switch but stopped when he heard something strange. A soft sound, almost like someone breathing heavily. He stood perfectly still and listened. There it was again, definitely coming from inside the garage. His heart started beating faster. Was someone hiding in there? David thought about closing the door and calling the police, but then he heard something that made his blood run cold. "Help me." The voice was weak and desperate. It was definitely a woman, and she sounded hurt. David's hand found the light switch and flicked it on. The dim bulb cast long shadows across the cluttered garage. At first, he didn't see anything unusual. His workbench was covered with tools just like always. Boxes of old car parts were stacked against the walls. His bicycle hung from hooks in the ceiling. Then he saw her. Behind his workbench, barely visible in the shadows, a young woman was lying on the concrete floor. Her clothes were dirty and torn. Her hair was matted with what looked like blood. She was curled up in a ball, shivering. "Oh my God," David whispered, rushing toward her. He knelt down beside her and could see she was badly hurt. There was a nasty cut on her forehead, and her left ankle was swollen. Her eyes were open but unfocused, like she was having trouble staying conscious. "Hey, can you hear me?" David asked gently. "What happened to you?" The woman looked up at him with frightened eyes. She appeared to be in her early 20s, with dark hair and olive skin. Even injured and scared, David could tell she was beautiful. But right now she just looked terrified. "Please," she whispered, "don't let them find me." David's mind raced. Who was them? How had this woman ended up in his garage? She was obviously in serious trouble, and she needed medical attention right away. Her breathing was shallow and she kept drifting in and out of consciousness. "I'm going to call an ambulance," David said, pulling out his phone. "You need to get to a hospital." The woman grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "No," she said urgently. "They'll find me." "They have people everywhere." David didn't understand what she meant, but he could see the terror in her eyes was real. Still, she was badly injured. If he didn't get her help soon, she might die. He made the call to 911. "There's an injured woman in my garage," he told the dispatcher. "She has a head injury and needs medical attention immediately." While they waited for the ambulance, David did what he could to help. He found an old blanket in his car and covered her with it. He used a clean rag to gently clean the blood from her forehead. The cut wasn't as deep as it had looked at first, but it would definitely need stitches. "What's your name?" David asked, trying to keep her talking. "Anna." she said weakly. Anna Chen. I'm David. You're going to be okay, Anna. Help is coming. Anna's eyes kept darting toward the garage door, like she expected someone dangerous to walk through it at any moment. I was running, she said. I ran for so long. I couldn't go any further. Running from what? Before Anna could answer, they heard the ambulance siren in the distance. She tensed up again, fear washing over her face. It's okay, David reassured her. Those are the good guys. They're here to help you. The paramedics arrived quickly and took over. They asked David the same questions he had been wondering about himself. How did he know this woman? What had happened to her? He explained that he had simply found her in his garage when he came to get his tools. As they loaded Anna onto a stretcher, she reached out and grabbed David's hand. Thank you, she said. You saved my life. The paramedics said they were taking her to City General Hospital. David watched the ambulance drive away, its red lights disappearing into the rainy night. He stood in his garage for a long time afterward, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Who was Anna Chen? How had she ended up in his garage? And who was she running from that scared her so much? David had a feeling this was just the beginning of something much bigger than he could imagine. He locked up the garage and went back inside his house. The frozen dinner he had been planning to eat was forgotten. His quiet, predictable life had just taken a very unexpected turn. Tomorrow he would go to the hospital to check on Anna and hopefully get some answers. But tonight, all he could do was wonder what kind of trouble had literally stumbled into his world. David barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Anna's terrified face and heard her desperate plea for help. He kept wondering what kind of danger she was running from, and whether she was safe at the hospital. By 6 a.m, he gave up trying to sleep and made coffee with shaky hands. The repair shop felt different that day. David went through the motions of fixing engines and changing oil, but his mind was somewhere else entirely. His co-worker Jake noticed he was distracted and asked if everything was okay. David just said he had a lot on his mind. How could he explain that a stranger had appeared in his garage like something out of a movie? During his lunch break, David drove to City General Hospital. The receptionist told him that Anna was in room 314 and was stable but still under observation. David took the elevator up, not sure what he would say to her or if she would even want to see him. He knocked softly on the door and heard a weak voice say, "Come in." Anna was sitting up in bed, looking much better than she had the night before. Someone had cleaned the blood from her hair, and the cut on her forehead was covered with a neat bandage. Her ankle was wrapped and elevated on a pillow. "David," she said, and he was surprised that she remembered his name. "I wasn't sure you would come. I had to make sure you were okay," he said, pulling up a chair beside her bed. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck," Anna said with a weak smile. "But the doctors say I'll be fine. Just a concussion and some bumps and bruises. Nothing that won't heal." David noticed that she kept glancing toward the door like she was still worried about someone finding her. "Anna, you need to tell someone what happened to you. The police came by this morning asking questions, but I couldn't give them any answers." Anna's face went pale. "What did you tell them?" "Just that I found you in my garage. Nothing more because I don't know anything more." David leaned forward. "But maybe I should. Who are you running from? What kind of trouble are you in?" Anna was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. When she finally looked up, there were tears in her eyes. "If I tell you, you'll think I'm crazy, or you'll think I'm lying." "Try me," David said gently. Anna took a deep breath. "My father is Vincent Chen. Have you heard of him?" David shook his head. The name didn't ring a bell. He owns Chen Enterprises, import and export business. Very successful, very wealthy. Anna's voice was bitter. "At least that's what everyone thinks. That's what I thought too until 2 weeks ago." She told David about growing up in a big house with everything money could buy, but without much love or attention from her father. Her mother had died when Anna was 12, and after that Vincent had become even more distant. He was always traveling for business, always making deals, always too busy for his daughter. "I graduated from college last year with a business degree," Anna continued. "Dad finally seemed interested in having me around. He said he wanted to teach me the family business, maybe let me take over someday. I was so happy. I thought we were finally going to have a real relationship." But what Anna discovered about her father's business made her stomach turn. Late one night, she had stayed at the office to finish some paperwork and overheard a phone conversation that changed everything. He was talking to someone about a shipment coming in from overseas, Anna said, her voice dropping to a whisper. But it wasn't goods they were talking about. It was people, young women. They were being brought here against their will. David felt sick. Human trafficking? Anna nodded. That's not all. The business has been a front for money laundering too. Dirty money from all kinds of illegal activities gets cleaned through fake transactions. My father has been living this double life for years and I never knew. The next part of Anna's story was even more frightening. When she confronted her father about what she had heard, he didn't deny it. Instead, he calmly explained that she was now part of the operation whether she liked it or not. Family loyalty was everything, he said. She would keep quiet and eventually take over the business when he retired. I told him I would never be part of something so evil, Anna said. I threatened to go to the police. That's when everything changed. Vincent Chen hadn't gotten angry. That would have been better, Anna said. Instead, he had looked at her with cold, calculating eyes and made a phone call. Within an hour, 2 men had arrived at the house. Anna recognized them as her father's security team, but now they were there for a very different purpose. Dad told them I was having a mental breakdown, Anna continued. He said I was delusional and needed to be kept safe until he could get me professional help. But I knew what was really happening. He was having me kidnapped. The men had taken Anna to a house outside the city where she was kept locked in a room. Her father visited once, bringing a doctor who seemed to be in his pocket. The doctor asked her questions designed to make her sound unstable, and took notes that Anna was sure would be used to have her committed to a mental institution. They were going to make everyone believe I was crazy, Anna said. Then Dad could have me locked away permanently. No one would believe anything I said about his business. 3 days ago, Anna had been moved to a different location. During the transfer, the car had to stop suddenly when another vehicle ran a red light and crashed in front of them. In the confusion, Anna had managed to get out and run. I ran through neighborhoods I didn't recognize, she said. I was lost and scared and hurt from jumping out of the moving car. I just kept running until I couldn't anymore. When I saw your garage door was unlocked, I hid inside. I thought they would find me for sure. David sat back in his chair, trying to process everything Anna had told him. It sounded like something from a crime movie, but the fear in her eyes was real. The injuries were real. And if even half of what she was saying was true, she was in terrible danger. You have to go to the police, David said. Tell them everything. Anna shook her head. My father has connections everywhere. Police, judges, politicians. How do I know who I can trust? Plus, he's already started spreading the story that I'm mentally unstable. Who's going to believe me over him? She had a point. Vincent Chen was a wealthy, respected businessman. Anna was his daughter who had supposedly had a breakdown. Without evidence, it would be her word against his. What about proof? David asked. Did you take anything that shows what your father is really doing? Anna's eyes lit up for the first time since he had arrived. Actually, yes. I managed to grab my laptop when they first took me. It has files on it that could prove everything. But it's hidden back at the house, and I can't exactly walk in there and get it. David found himself saying something that surprised even him. What if I helped you get it? Anna stared at him. David, you don't understand how dangerous these people are. If they catch you helping me, they won't just let you walk away. Maybe, David said, but I can't just pretend this conversation never happened. What kind of person would that make me? For the first time since he had met her, Anna smiled a real smile. It would make you smart and safe. But thank you for even thinking about it. They talked for another hour, with Anna giving David more details about her father's operation and the people involved. By the time visiting hours were over, David had made up his mind. He was going to help Anna get the evidence she needed no matter what the cost. As he left the hospital, David realized his quiet, predictable life was officially over. But for the first time in years, he felt like he was doing something that mattered. David knew he was making a crazy decision, but he couldn't shake the image of Anna's terrified face from his mind. That evening, he sat in his living room making a plan that probably would have made any sensible person laugh. A broke engineer trying to take on a wealthy criminal organization. What could possibly go wrong? The first step was getting Anna out of the hospital safely. The doctors wanted to keep her for another day of observation, but Anna was worried that staying in one place too long would make her an easy target. David had an idea that seemed simple enough. He would check her out of the hospital and bring her to his house where she could recover while they figured out their next move. Are you sure about this? Anna asked when David explained his plan during his visit the next morning. If my father's people find out you're helping me, you'll be in just as much danger as I am. David had thought about that all night. Maybe, but I can't just walk away knowing what I know. Besides, you need somewhere safe to recover, and my house is probably the last place they'd think to look. Anna looked around the sterile hospital room. Anywhere is better than here. I feel like a sitting duck. Getting Anna discharged was easier than David had expected. He told the nurses he was her cousin and that the family wanted her to recover at home. Anna played along perfectly, and within 2 hours they were driving through the city in David's old Honda. It's not much, David said as he helped Anna into his small house. But it's quiet and the neighbors pretty much keep to themselves. Anna looked around the modest living room with its secondhand furniture and smiled. It's perfect. I haven't felt safe anywhere in weeks. David gave Anna his bedroom and moved his clothes to the living room where he would sleep on the couch. As she rested, he started thinking about how they could get the evidence she needed from her father's house. It wasn't going to be easy. The Chen family lived in Hillcrest, the wealthy part of town where houses sat behind high fences and security systems. Over the next few days, Anna slowly regained her strength while she and David worked together to plan their approach. Anna knew the house layout perfectly and could tell David exactly where she had hidden her laptop. More importantly, she knew her father's schedule and the habits of his security team. Dad always has dinner at Romano's on Wednesday nights. Anna explained as they sat at David's kitchen table, drawing a rough map of the house. He's been doing it for years. Same table, same time. 8 o'clock exactly. What about security at the house? 2 guards usually. One at the front gate, one who patrols the grounds. But they're not expecting trouble from the inside. I still have my key and I know the alarm code. Dad never changed it because he thought I was locked up somewhere. David studied the map Anna had drawn. So we go in Wednesday night while he's at dinner. How long does that give us? At least 2 hours. Dad never rushes his meals and Romano's is a 40-minute drive from the house. It sounded almost too simple, which made David nervous. In his experience, when something seemed too easy, it usually was. As they spent more time together, David began to see past Anna's wealthy background to the person she really was. Despite growing up with every material advantage, she was kind and down to earth. She insisted on helping with household chores even though her ankle was still sore. She cooked dinner for them using simple ingredients from David's nearly empty refrigerator and somehow made it taste like a meal from an expensive restaurant. Where did you learn to cook like this? David asked as they shared a meal of pasta with vegetables that Anna had somehow transformed into something amazing. My housekeeper, Mrs. Garcia, taught me when I was little, Anna said. Dad was always working, so she was like a mother to me. I spent more time in the kitchen with her than anywhere else in that big house. David found himself looking forward to their conversations in the evening. Anna was smart and funny with stories about her college years that made him laugh. She asked him about his engineering background and seemed genuinely interested in his work, even though it was far from glamorous. You know, you're not what I expected, Anna said one evening as they sat on David's small back porch. What did you expect? I don't know. Maybe someone who would want something in return for helping me. Money or fame or just the chance to be connected to a wealthy family. Anna looked at him curiously. But you're not like that at all. Why are you doing this? David thought about it for a moment. I guess because it's the right thing to do. You needed help and I was there. It's that simple. It's not simple at all, Anna said softly. You're risking everything for someone you barely know. The truth was, David was starting to care about Anna more than he wanted to admit. She wasn't just someone he was helping anymore. She was becoming important to him in a way that scared him a little, but he pushed those feelings aside. Right now, the focus had to be on getting the evidence and stopping her father. Wednesday arrived gray and rainy, which David hoped would work in their favor. Bad weather meant fewer people would be out, and the darkness would help hide their activities. Anna had been nervous all day, pacing around the house and checking the windows repeatedly. What if something goes wrong? She asked for the 10th time that afternoon. Then we adapt, David said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. We've planned this carefully. We know the house. We know his schedule. And we have backup plans. That evening, they drove to the Chen family neighborhood in David's car. Anna had insisted on coming along even though David thought it would be safer for her to wait at his house. "This is my fight," she had said. "I'm not sending you in there alone." They parked 3 blocks away from the house and walked through the quiet, tree-lined streets. The houses in this area were enormous, each one sitting on acres of perfectly manicured lawn. David felt out of place in his work clothes and old jacket. The Chen house was even bigger than David had imagined. It looked more like a small hotel than a family home, with tall columns and massive windows that glowed with warm light. A high iron fence surrounded the property, but Anna led him to a section where the trees grew close to the fence line. "There's a spot here where the fence is damaged," Anna whispered. "I used to sneak out this way when I was in high school." Sure enough, there was a gap in the fence hidden behind some bushes. They squeezed through and found themselves on the edge of the Chen property. David could see the guard station at the front gate in the distance, but from their position, they were invisible. Anna led him through the shadows toward the house, avoiding the areas where motion sensor lights would detect them. She moved with confidence, like she was just coming home from an evening out. David tried to match her calm demeanor, but his heart was pounding. They reached a side door that Anna said led to a mudroom off the kitchen. She pulled out her key with shaking hands and slowly unlocked the door. The alarm system beeped softly, and Anna quickly entered the code she had known since childhood. "So far so good," she whispered. Now came the hard part. They had to get to Anna's old room on the 2nd floor, find the laptop, and get out without being detected. And they had to do it all while Vincent Chen was having dinner across town, hoping he wouldn't decide to come home early for any reason. David followed Anna through the darkened house, amazed by how large and luxurious everything was. This was a different world from his small rental house, but somehow it felt cold and empty. Despite all its expensive furnishings, they were about to find out if their careful planning would be enough to pull off what felt like an impossible mission. The inside of the Chen house was like walking through a museum. Expensive paintings hung on the walls, and crystal chandeliers cast soft shadows in the moonlight coming through the tall windows. Anna moved silently through the hallways she had known since childhood, but everything felt different now. This wasn't her home anymore. It was enemy territory. David stayed close behind her as they climbed the grand staircase to the 2nd floor. Every step seemed to echo in the silence, even though they were trying to be as quiet as possible. Anna's old bedroom was at the end of a long hallway, past several guest rooms and her father's study. "This used to be my safe place," Anna whispered as she opened the door to her room. "I spent so many hours here growing up, especially after Mom died." The room looked like it belonged to a teenager, not a college graduate. The walls were painted pale pink, and stuffed animals sat on shelves alongside academic awards and family photos. It was strange seeing this innocent space, knowing what Anna had discovered about her father's real business. Anna went straight to her closet and moved aside a pile of old textbooks. Behind them was a small safe that David hadn't expected to see. "I got this when I turned 16, Anna explained as she entered the combination. "Dad said every Chen needed to learn to protect valuable things. I never imagined I'd be protecting evidence of his crimes." The safe opened with a soft click, and Anna pulled out a sleek laptop computer. "Everything is on here. Financial records, shipping manifests, contact lists, even some recorded phone conversations. Enough to put him away for a very long time." David felt a wave of relief. They had done it. They had gotten the evidence, and now they could get out of here and take it to the authorities. But as they turned to leave, Anna grabbed his arm. "Wait," she said, listening carefully. "Do you hear that?" David strained his ears and heard what had made Anna freeze. Car doors slamming outside, voices calling to each other. Then the sound of the front door opening downstairs. "Dad's home early," Anna said, her face going pale. "He never comes home before 10 on Wednesday nights." They could hear Vincent Chen's voice echoing up from the foyer, along with at least 2 other men. Anna recognized one of the voices as Tony Russo, her father's head of security. The other voice was unfamiliar, but it had the hard edge of someone used to violence. "Check every room," Vincent was saying. "If she's been here, I want to know about it. Check for anything missing, anything out of place." Anna and David looked at each other with growing panic. They were trapped on the 2nd floor with nowhere to go. The main staircase was the only way down, and it led directly to where the men were searching. "The service elevator," Anna whispered suddenly. "It goes from the kitchen to the 3rd floor. If we can get to it without being seen, we can make it down to the basement and out through the back." They could hear footsteps on the stairs now, Vincent and his men were coming up to search the second floor. Anna clutched the laptop tightly as she led David toward the back of the house where the service elevator was located. They made it halfway down the hall when a voice stopped them cold. Well, look what we have here. Tony Russo stood at the top of the main staircase, blocking their path. He was a large man with cold eyes and a gun visible in a shoulder holster under his jacket. Behind him, David could see Vincent Chen and another man who looked like he'd stepped out of a crime movie. "Hello, Anna," Vincent said calmly, as if this was a normal family reunion. "You've been causing quite a bit of trouble lately." Anna stepped protectively in front of David, still holding the laptop. "It's over, Dad. I have everything." "The police will know the truth about what you've been doing." Vincent laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The police?" "My dear daughter, I'm disappointed. After all these years, you still don't understand how the world really works." He gestured to the man beside him. "This is Detective Ray Morrison. He's been very helpful to our organization over the years, very understanding about the complexities of international business." Detective Morrison stepped forward with a smile that made David's skin crawl. "Miss Chen, your father has been very worried about you. He's told me all about your recent mental health struggles." David felt sick. Anna had been right about her father having people everywhere. Even the police couldn't be trusted. "Who's your friend?" Vincent asked, looking at David with interest. "The one who's been hiding my daughter and interfering with family business?" "He's nobody," Anna said quickly. "Just someone who happened to find me. He doesn't know anything about this." "I'm afraid I can't take that chance," Vincent said. "Tony, please escort them both to the basement. We'll need some time to discuss the situation." As Tony moved toward them, David made a split-second decision that surprised everyone, including himself. He grabbed a heavy vase from a nearby table and threw it as hard as he could at the crystal chandelier hanging over the staircase. The crash was spectacular. Glass exploded everywhere as the chandelier came down, blocking the staircase and sending the men scrambling for cover. In the confusion, David grabbed Anna's hand and ran toward the service elevator. "This way," Anna shouted, leading him through a doorway he hadn't noticed before. They found themselves in a narrow hallway that David realized was designed for the house staff to move around without being seen by the family and guests. Behind them, they could hear Vincent shouting orders and the sound of men running through the house. They had bought themselves some time, but not much. The service elevator was an old-fashioned freight elevator with metal gates instead of solid doors. Anna hit the button for the basement and the ancient mechanism groaned to life, moving with painful slowness. Come on," David muttered, watching the floor numbers change. They could hear footsteps above them and knew it was only a matter of time before Vincent's men figured out where they had gone. The elevator finally reached the basement, and they ran through a maze of storage rooms and utility areas. Anna led them to a door that opened onto the back gardens of the property. "The fence is about 100 yards through those trees," Anna said, pointing into the darkness. "If we can make it that far, we can get back to your car." They ran across the open lawn, expecting to hear shouts or gunshots at any moment. The laptop felt heavy in Anna's arms, but she held onto it like her life depended on it. In many ways, it did. They reached the fence and squeezed through the gap they had used earlier. On the other side, they kept running until they reached David's car. Only when they were driving away from the neighborhood did they allow themselves to believe they had a car. Truly escaped. "That was insane," David said, his hand shaking as he gripped the steering wheel. "I can't believe we made it out of there." Anna was quiet for a long moment, staring at the laptop in her lap. "He'll never stop looking for us now," she said finally. "My father doesn't forgive and he doesn't forget. We're both in danger as long as he's free." David knew she was right. They had the evidence they needed, but getting it to the right people was going to be harder than they had thought. Vincent Chen had connections everywhere, including the police. One wrong move could get them both killed, but they had come too far to give up now. Somewhere out there were people whose lives depended on stopping Vincent Chen's operation. Young women who were being trafficked, families being destroyed by the crimes he was covering up. Anna and David were the only ones who could stop him. The question was whether they would live long enough to do it. David drove through the night, taking random turns and checking his mirrors constantly. Anna sat beside him, still clutching the laptop that contained the evidence against her father. They both knew they couldn't go back to David's house. It would be the first place Vincent's men would look. "We need help," Anna said as they stopped at a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of town. "But who can we trust? If my father has people in the local police, we need to go higher up. David had been thinking the same thing. What about the FBI? They wouldn't be on your father's payroll, would they? I hope not, Anna said. But how do we even contact them? It's not like we can just walk into their office. As they sat in a corner booth of the empty diner, nursing cups of coffee and trying to figure out their next move, Anna opened her laptop and started going through the files she had collected over the weeks before her escape. Look at this, she said, turning the screen toward David. There are shipping records here that show regular deliveries from overseas companies that don't exist. And these financial records show millions of dollars being moved through fake businesses. David studied the information, amazed by how detailed Anna's evidence was. How did you get all this without your father knowing? I've been suspicious of his business for months, Anna explained. Little things didn't add up, so I started copying files whenever I was in his office. I told myself I was just being paranoid, but I kept gathering evidence anyway. One file particularly caught David's attention. It was a list of names and phone numbers, but one name stood out. Agent Rebecca Walsh, FBI Financial Crimes Division. Anna, look at this. Why would your father have an FBI agent's contact information? Anna's face went pale as she read the file. Oh my God. This is a list of people he's been bribing or threatening. He's been feeding information to Agent Walsh to stay ahead of any investigations. David felt his heart sink. If Vincent had corrupted FBI agents too, where could they turn for help? But Anna was already opening another file. Wait, there's more here. Look at these email exchanges between my father and Agent Walsh. She's not working for him, she's been investigating him. These are copies of emails where she's asking for more evidence and promising to build a case. David read over Anna's shoulder. The emails showed that Agent Walsh had been trying to gather evidence against Vincent Chen for over a year. But she needed insider information to make a solid case. She's one of the good guys, Anna said with relief. We can trust her. The next morning, they found a secure internet cafe and sent an encrypted email to Agent Walsh using an address Anna found in the files. Within 2 hours, they received a response asking them to meet at a specific location at noon. Agent Walsh turned out to be a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s who looked like she had seen every kind of criminal scheme imaginable. She met them in the parking lot of a shopping mall, choosing a spot where they could see anyone approaching. Miss Chen, I've been hoping to hear from you, Agent Walsh said after they had shown her ID and she had verified their identities. When you disappeared, I was afraid your father had done something permanent to silence you. Anna handed over the laptop. Everything you need is on here. Financial records, shipping manifests, recorded conversations, lists of contacts. I've been gathering evidence for months. Agent Walsh spent an hour going through the files, her expression growing more serious with each document she reviewed. This is incredible work, she finally said. With this evidence, we can shut down the entire operation and arrest everyone involved. What about Detective Morrison? David asked. Anna's father has been bribing him. We know about Morrison, Agent Walsh said grimly. He's been under investigation, too. This evidence will be enough to arrest him as well. Over the next few days, Anna and David stayed in a safe house while Agent Walsh and her team prepared their case. Anna was amazed by how quickly things moved once the FBI took action. Within a week, coordinated raids had shut down Vincent Chen's operation completely. David watched the news coverage from the safe house, hardly believing what he was seeing. Vincent Chen was arrested at his office along with Morrison and 6 other people. The news reporters called it the biggest human trafficking bust in the state's history. 15 young women were rescued from various locations, the news anchor reported. According to FBI sources, this criminal organization had been operating for over 5 years and had victimized dozens of people. Anna cried when she saw the footage of the young women being led to safety. I should have done something sooner, she said. I should have been braver. You were brave enough when it mattered, David told her. If you hadn't gathered that evidence, none of this would have been possible. 6 months later, David found himself in a place he never could have imagined. Anna's father was in federal prison awaiting trial, along with Morrison and the rest of his network. Anna had inherited control of her father's legitimate businesses and was working with lawyers to restructure everything to make sure it operated ethically, but the biggest change in David's life wasn't financial. Anna had insisted on helping him start his own engineering consulting business, but David had refused any money from her. Instead, He had used his experience with the case to specialize in security systems for organizations that helped trafficking victims. "I can't take your money," David had told Anna when she first offered. "That's not why I helped you." "I know that," Anna had replied. "That's exactly why I want to help you. You risked everything for a stranger. Let me help you build something good." David's new business was small but growing. He designed security systems for women's shelters and safe houses, using his engineering skills to help protect people who were trying to escape dangerous situations. It felt like meaningful work in a way that fixing car engines never had. Anna had surprised everyone by deciding to go back to school to study social work. "I want to help other survivors," she explained to David one evening as they had dinner at his house, which was now their house. "You know, a year ago I thought my life was over," David said, looking across the table at the woman who had changed everything. "I was broke, alone, and convinced I'd never amount to anything. And I was trapped in a family that I thought loved me, but was really just using me," Anna replied. "We both found something better than what we lost." Their relationship had grown slowly and naturally. What had started as David helping a stranger in need had become a partnership built on trust, shared danger, and genuine care for each other. They had seen each other at their worst and most frightened, and somehow that had created a foundation stronger than anything either had experienced before. The day Vincent Chen was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison, Anna and David stood outside the courthouse holding hands. Anna had testified against her father, something that had been incredibly difficult but necessary. "Do you think he'll ever understand why I did it?" Anna asked as they walked away from the courthouse. "Maybe someday," David said. "But what matters is that you know you did the right thing. Those people who were rescued, the victims who finally got justice, that happened because you were brave enough to speak up." That evening, they went to a small restaurant to celebrate the end of the trial. As they sat across from each other, David realized how much his life had changed since that rainy night when he had found Anna in his garage. "I have something to ask you," David said, reaching across the table to take Anna's hand. "We've been through everything together: danger, fear, uncertainty. We've built something good out of something terrible. I can't imagine facing whatever comes next without you." Anna smiled, knowing what he was about to ask before he said it. "Will you marry me?" "Yes," Anna said without hesitation. 1,000 times yes. As they sat in that small restaurant planning their future together, David thought about how one moment of choosing to help a stranger had completely transformed his life. He had found love, purpose, and meaning in the most unexpected way. Sometimes the most important decisions we make are the ones where we simply choose to care about someone else's pain. For David and Anna, that choice had led to everything good that followed.